Our next talk is also from Africa, but from South Africa, going far down to the tip of the continent. And it will be from two of our long-term collaborators. Craig Spencer is the founder and director of the Black Mambas Anti-Poaching Unit, many of you who may have heard of them. And his co-presenter will be Luane Maifala, who is the program manager of the Bush Babies Environmental Education Program that works in the communities where the Black Mambas live and in the communities right around where the park is that they work in. The title of their talk is the essential women in leading conservation in South Africa. So I'll hand off to their talk.
Guys, today we are going to, we've only got 20 minutes, so we're going to keep it very quick. It's the Black Mamba All-Women Anti-Poaching Unit or Wildlife Security Program. It's got two components to it. It's the wildlife security and it's the community engagement and upliftment. I'm going to not say much more about that because Luane will fill us in. These are just some of our partners. That's our logo, Pondoro Game Lodge, one of our more prominent lodges in the areas. We're proud to be partners of theirs. And of course, the Department of Environmental Affairs in South Africa through the Extended Public Works Program. And then, of course, South African National Parks Board and the Baluli Nature Reserve, where I'm sitting right now as we speak. Okay, so where do we fit in on the Kruger National Park landscape? If you look at that dark green kind of polygon that's arranged in a north-south orientation, that is the traditional Kruger National Park. The light green component is the expanded part of the park. We call it the Greater Kruger National Park. There's no fences. That's where most of the lodges and commercial activities are, and the private concessions. And you can see that little buffalo head that's flashing up there. That is where we are now. That's where I'm sitting. Okay. So what is the coalition mission? And remember, guys, we said, can we make a community conservation project work? Do we have any evidence to suggest that an all-women approach might be the best way to go, or to target the local communities, etc.? So with our partners, we have generated a mission that says to make the Greater Kruger National Park the most difficult and undesirable place to poach. And then we want a proud, sympathetic, and patriotic community on our borders because we want allies. We don't want people harboring criminals in the communities and this divide, where the boundary fence keeps the local people out and it's only for the rich people flying in from overseas to enjoy. And then, of course, we've got the huge social dilemmas sitting on our boundaries that poaching normally brings. And there's the socio-economic problems, socio-political problems, and illegal wildlife trade, particularly the rhinos in this area are being hammered since 2012. And the consequences of that, of course, are the social and the moral decay that sets in. And, we try to address those issues. And that's more where Luane and her project fits in as well. So the coalition strategies are pretty much the same as you will see in any wildlife security program. It's effective boots on the ground. It's effective and affordable technologies, and creating a strong pro-environmental ethos within the community. So that's all good and well. It sounds a little bit cliche these days, but how do we do this, without resorting to the old rusty tools in our toolbox? We need a different approach. And I like to think that we might have got there. So what we try to put down as our objectives is we want an early detection and a crime prevention model. We don't want to evaluate our success on the amount of poachers arrested or body bags or the number of rhino carcasses found on the landscape, etc. We want to prevent the rhinos from dying and prevent the need to militarize or for violence. So monitoring, surveillance, and compliance. I always say all of my Black Mambas have got an MSc. It's monitoring, surveillance, and compliance. Community buy-in. We need that open window into the communities. And like I said before, the false economy, the social decay. Black Mambas is 36 young rural African women, their mothers, their aunties, wives, future grandmothers. Okay, Luane will talk about the Bush Grannies program a little bit later. We want to target the primary caregivers, and we want a multi-generational investment into the community. And there's a nice blank picture of an absolute nothingness. Oh, here we go. So we've already been through that. So I'm going to whiz through this because I want to give Wayne some extra time. If you just look at the pictures in the previous slide, you can see the progression that the young ladies go through from recruitment phase all the way through the training. They do exactly the same training as any other field ranger would do, includes weapons training, even though we don't deploy them with weapons, etc. A lot of military discipline. It is a paramilitary operation with an angle. Okay. Crime prevention, there it is. Visual policing, it's in your face. It's searching vehicles coming in and out. It's confiscating or removing anything from the landscape that could be a threat to the wildlife. Can the Black Mamba stand alone? The answer is no. Okay, we still need the rapid response, or the tactical response, as I call it, on this little pyramidal graph. Our connection is a bit slow here. So the intelligence flows into the top. I sit at the very top of the operations center. There's a small team of armed response people that will respond to anything that the Black Mambas find. And then the Black Mambas are unarmed, covering lots and lots of hectares day and night. You'll see on the x-axis there, they're the broadest part of the pyramid. They're carrying the most responsibility, if you like, for early detection, covering vast areas, etc. If they find anything, it will move up the ranks. The whole idea, my dog is wanting to join the Zoom. The whole idea is based on the Bobbies on the Beat principle, where they build an institutional memory of their beat, of the area, the patrol area, so they will be able to tell that that vehicle is out of the box. That one I know, don't worry about that. That rock wasn't turned upside down the last time I came on patrol this morning. Let's quickly have a look and see what's going on there. Everybody gets to know them in the area. They get to know the area and all the role players, etc., so they can pick up anything untoward very quickly. Okay. Now, I've blanked out the names of the regions that we have used to evaluate how successful the project is. It's really difficult to evaluate the successes of these things. So the red block is Baluli, the far left-hand side, that graph, and then two adjacent regions that have two different approaches to wildlife security. Okay, this is based purely on rhino poaching. It's comparable, it's comparing apples with apples. The only difference is our anti-poaching approach. And I would like to propose that our landscape is probably more compromised because of the mines and the railway lines, and it's carved up, and there's 101 different land use practices here. And yet our losses are much less. The trends are the same, but if we're talking about a numbers game, I would say that this approach has actually yielded the maximum benefits. These areas are contiguous. There's no boundaries in between. So a poacher is not going to look on a map and say, oh, gee, I'm going to go there. It's going to go to the least fear landscape, or if you know what I mean. And here's just another quick kernel density assessment of rhino carcasses found on the landscape. It goes from 2016, and our peak was in 2017, and slowly it started to bear fruit. And now we're sitting in 2019. I haven't evaluated this year because we've had COVID and lockdown, and that's actually going to bias the data. But you can see immediately how the density of carcasses on the landscape dwindled from the start, if we have to use that as a measure of our success. I've got various other techniques that we would use, but I just wanted to show you those graphs without blowing my own trumpet. Let the statistics speak for themselves. Now, Dr. James Anoff Berg, Living Desert and Zoological Gardens, came down with a team and did some extensive research to try and determine whether we were reaching our other objectives in the community as well. So not just about rhino poaching, it's about how do we make sure that this ethos carries on through the community. And we found through this work that James did for us, that without the bush babies, where we've got the bush babies intervention, which Wayne is going to talk about next, that's where we're getting our biggest bang for buck. That's our best investment. We've got the Black Mambas working in the wildlife arena, and then we've got the bush babies programs at the schools and in the communities back at home. So it's a multi-pronged approach. It's not just looking after the wildlife landscape for wildlife. We're not saying to anybody we're placing the lives of animals above the lives of human beings, and we're not creating orphans and widows. One of the key findings that came out of James's work and his team, through experiences and skills development, Black Mambas experienced tremendous growth in self-esteem and self-sufficiency, both at work and at home, which I think is quite significant. A dog is harassing me on the left here. He wants to play. Another one of the key findings is 100% of the Black Mambas report the program has fundamentally changed their beliefs about what women can do. Check them out in their uniforms. Look at those beautiful smiles. No doubt there. Okay, here's another 2 key findings. Sorry that I'm going so fast. Community residents of all 4 target communities, these are tribal communities on the border, value wildlife and protected areas on an average of 8 out of 10. And that's pretty significant, eh? Members of all the 4 target communities recognize and are encouraged by the benefits of the Big 5 landscape, which is fantastic. I love this picture. Hey, Sosha, there's your cousin. Okay, number 5. This is my last key finding. Members of all the 4 target communities are highly unsupportive of poaching. Haran. Okay. Now, we've created the role models. We've created a little bit of human dignity. And now my share screen, oh, there it is, back again. Okay, I'm not going to speak much about this because I think I've said it all before. Just look at the pretty pictures, read the big bold font, and just let it sink in. These are the basic activities, a day in the life of a Black Mamba. Okay, it's coming. Everybody relax. Ewan, I'm going to hand over to you. You must just prompt me and I will push the button. What's going on here? Off you go.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Jays and everybody from the Living Desert. Craig, thank you for introducing me. So like Craig has said, my name is Liwayne Maifala and I run the Bush Babies Environmental Education Program. I think we both speak very fast, so just please bear with us. I get to do the fun part of everything that everybody gets to do in terms of conservation and education. I achieved this through running the Bush Babies Environmental Education Program. And if you don't know what a Bush Baby looks like, you have a visual on the top right where you can see it's a little primate. Next slide, please, Craig.
It's coming.
So with the program, we're working with 11 local primary schools within the 4 local communities, which is Maseke, Mashishi, Malamakushane, and Namahale. And then we have more than 2,000 children or learners that are actively on the program. The program is registered with the Department of Education and of course with the Department of Environmental Affairs, whereby we work collectively as to get the conservational message out. Our structure is simple. We work from top to bottom and bottom downwards. We've got the Mongoose Pack where we're educating the little kids, they're like 6 years old, about what animals are, because you come into a classroom and say, do you know what is an impala? Nobody knows what's an impala. But we introduce impalas to the kids, and in the Mini Bush Babies program, we start looking at what makes this impala very unique. And then they get to another stage of the Bush Babies where they now look at, oh, let me not use an impala instead, let me use a rhino or an elephant in particular. Mongoose Pack, they learn this is an elephant. An elephant has tusks, has big ears, it's a big animal. That's all they need to know. Mini Bush Babies further understand, oh, the role of this elephant in the bush is, it breaks down the trees so that the other animals can browse of it. But then also you get to the Bush Babies, we further that knowledge of the importance of the animal, such as it's a totem animal for many of the cultural people, and what are the threats to this animal within the landscape. Now we introduce the poaching and the snaring. And through this, we partner again with the Black Mamba Anti-Poaching Unit, who would come to the school and educate the kids about that. Hey. Then we get to our biggest program, the Bush Grannies, the matriarchs of our society. They play a very important role in educating the kids as their mothers are out. For example, with the Black Mambas, they're currently at work, the kids are with the grannies. So grannies play a very crucial role in educating the kids about the right stuff. That is why we saw the importance of saying, kids hear it from granny that an elephant is going to kill you. But if we educate granny firsthand of saying, granny, this is how an animal behaves, granny can take that information back home so that kids don't grow up with this fear and hate towards animals. Next, please. Then we also have a food security program at our school. We have 11 primary schools, but we have one vegetable garden, a very successful vegetable garden. All the kids get involved there to plant the seeds, watch germinate, and incorporate that into the school curriculum of mathematics. And they get to take a share of those, what they have grown. They get to take that home. And if you look, we only have 6 big tires that gets to be fed, so we rotate. If the kids get it this time, the next harvest goes to our bush grannies. So it's not just the kids that benefit from this, but it's the community altogether. Next, please. So it's not just the education that we do in the classroom. We try and get the kids out of the classroom and introduce them to various career paths or social activities that they can do, which would be very much beneficial to them. On the top left, we partnered with the Black Mamba Anti-Poaching Unit, where we had a rhino and elephant march, where we and the kids were singing to all the local communities of saying, save our animals, save our rhinos. On the far left, we have Black Mamba Nkateko, who is teaching the kids about the parade that they have, telling the learners, you need to be focused, look at your uniform, you need to be in the right angle. And, you know, people, when they see you, they should say, yeah, why is this child a little bit different? There we have one of the learners being taught how to use a digital camera. Kids also go out to do cleaning campaigns, and they visit the Greater Kruger National Park, Bulili, where Craig is. I think the little one they were saying, I think you've got a mohawk like the warthog. Thank you. So one of the successes of the program, as much as it's fun, it yields us some of the benefits. Learners that are on the program, at the end of the year, they get to go on an all expenses paid trip for 3 nights, where they go on a boat cruise across the Oliphants River. This is a river that they see or collect their water from, but now they get to travel on top of this boat, looking at all these aquatic lives that you find there. We see their kids go on game drives. Look how close that elephant is. This is a child that has been told that elephant is going to kill you. But through the success of the program, again, we can have such moments with the learners. The program also had, June 16, we recruited 6 environmental monitors from the local communities, 2 in each communities that we're working with. So that's why you see the A team, as we call them. Another success is the Science Expo, or the Science Fair, when one of the kids did a research project in partnership with Western Kentucky University, where she was looking at the marula seedling recruitment and what was eating them, because we don't have much marula, big marulas. We only have the little ones. So her research was to find out what is consuming the seedlings, and those were the findings as she compared it from local community to here. And she actually became an ambassador for South Africa and went to Los Angeles to represent the Bush Babies program. Another project that you know that melts my heart, but then yes, is the Dress Me to Learn initiative, where kids get donated new school shoes. I think you can see from the child at the back, the face is like, I wish that was mine, but then it was another child who got it. This program focuses on orphans, little kids that don't have a parent or are vulnerable, and they would get the shoes donated. Thank you. So one other big thing that we do, this is big, is we uplift and create a better learning environment at the schools. These are classrooms that we create and give a natural feel to it, so that the kids can come and enjoy the classroom. The tables have animal prints to also teach them just about the print of, this is a lion, lion group, so we group the kids according to animals. We paint, again, with our sister program, the Black Mambas. We renovate, we install new tables, install fans. It's hot. Palabora gets to like 47 degrees, and you just can imagine how hot that is. But through the support, we're able to get the classrooms renovated. You will see on the other slide how the classrooms are also, like, we just have different things. We don't have a same standard of saying this, but what we do is we would paint, upgrade, have a motivational quote in the classroom. When you see that Madagascar theme, that is for our Scouts location. which we believe, just like all the characters at Madagascar, everybody's just a unique character. And we would like all the kids to be, reveal your uniqueness. What we also do at the centers or at the schools is have the jungle gyms. Because we're investing in the little ones, we say, okay, here's a place for you guys to have some fun, and we will come and see you the other year. No, we use this playground as an area where new relationships and friendships are developed. Last but not least, we have our new educational center, which the local tribal authority has granted for us. That is the bottom left that you see there. That's our little library, because at the center, we want to introduce kids to reading and doing their homeworks, and of course, using this as our focal point that all our activities will take place at the center. If you look on the right, that's the ladies painting the tiles for our vegetable garden. We've got on top McDonald, his birthday today actually, who is removing the alien plants. So what we'll be doing with the kids there is also to take them around, collect the litter for recycling, and then in that way we can also earn like a little income. But again, it's to teach the kids that nature can take care of you if you take care of nature. Next slide, please. In my last slide, this is what drives me to do what I do. It says, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, it is not going to get better. It is not. This is by Dr. Seuss. One of the, he plays or has animation movies which we watch with the kids. But then again, unless someone like you, if you don't care, nothing is going to get better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Liwayne. That was great. That's the conclusion of our little story. So BM doesn't just stand for Black Mamba. It stands for Best Mother and Be More. We create a conducive working environment, safe teaching environment, stimulating classrooms, etc. Well done, Liwayne. The key, I think, to our success is that we've engaged the community, and it's not a militant engagement. It's not a militarized model. Okay, and it's multi-pronged because it's on both sides of the boundary. It's both inside and outside the park. Thank you very much, James. It's going to be over to you now. I'm going to stop recording, and thanks very much.
Excellent. Well, that was a fantastic set of stories from Craig and Liwayne. Just really inspirational work that they both have been doing with respect to the Black Mambas and, of course, the Bush Babies programs. And now I think we have been successful after several attempts. I think we now have joining us live from Phalaborwa and the Balule Game Reserve in Limpopo Province, South Africa. Liwayne and Craig, are you here?
We are. Thank you very much, James.
Fantastic. Great to see you. Craig has had to use his car's battery to be able to run his computer and internet connection. Quite a challenge. So thank you all, you both, for all that you've been able to do here in South Africa, and as an inspiration for people around the world. We've had several questions from people that we'd like to share with you. The first one, and I think this is particularly for you, Craig. How do the Black Mamba women and their families stay safe from poachers? Is there any threat posed to them or their families by poachers?
Thank you, James. That was a very good question. We get that question quite a bit, and it's something that plays heavily on our minds the entire time. We have to be very careful that if you employ a strategy like this, you have to, from the very beginning, you have to get buy-in from the tribal authorities. So everything from the advertisement to the recruitment to the questions you ask in an interview, all the way through the training, the tribal authority must be involved, including the chief and what have you. So when the selection is made of the successful candidates, those are people that are chosen by the chief, and therefore they are, so even the chief would actually phone or go to the household of those people and say, I'm happy to inform you that Nkateko has successfully been recruited into the Black Mambas. So they carry the protection of the chief, and that's a significant thing. Okay, and then secondly, it's critical that we don't place the Mambas in a militant kind of position. So people will often ask us why we don't arm them, and there's a number oh, excuse me, it's the rum, by the way. There's a number of reasons why we don't arm them. And one of them is that we are cognizant of the fact that they need to go home and live in that same community, and their children have to go to the same schools as the children of the poachers. They have to buy their groceries and what have you in the same places, etc., etc. They're part of the community. So they are eyes and ears, early detection. There was once like a Robin Hood kind of mentality in the community where the poachers were seen to be robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. They were the role models. The kids were not going to school because it was easier to get a BMW at the age of 18 if you just shoot a rhino every now and again, than actually qualifying and getting a job. And we've swung that around. The Black Mambas are now the role models in the communities. And very interestingly, I know this is not about COVID-19, but the COVID-19 lockdown period, we've been in lockdown since the 26th of March in South Africa, and the lodge industry, everything is very dead. And all the people that were employed inside the protected area were sent home without pay, except the Black Mambas. So that leapfrogged our kind of role model objective tremendously, because now everybody's looking and saying, wow, there's this bunch of women that are actually working to save wildlife and to protect wildlife, and they're still going home, and they are even providing for those families that are very hungry now. So COVID has actually worked in our favor in a number of ways, and that's just one of them right there. But to answer that question, it's really important that we don't place weapons in the hands of these people, use them as a militarized model, and then send them back home to their community where they will be targets by the poaching syndicates. Because remember, this is a syndicated thing. Rhino poaching is an elephant tusk poaching and what have you, is not a subsistence level poaching effort.
Certainly, yeah.
I hope that answered the question.
It does indeed, yes. I'd just like to highlight as well that one of the, I thought, really insightful work that projects that you all did, I think this was also with the Bush Babies program, was during COVID, you were collecting and distributing food to communities as well.
Yes, absolutely. And James, that's the, where the Mambas and Liwayne's team actually identified the families that were in critical need. There were 90 families in total across our 3 target communities, if you'll remember very well, because you did all the research there. And those families were propped up by the Mambas. So the Mambas took the food and the Mambas delivered them and said, this is from a team that is still surviving throughout COVID as a wildlife protection unit. We're not putting bodies in bags. We're not creating orphans and widows in our communities. We're actually addressing the socio-political issues, and we're trying to avoid the moral and the social decay in the community. And Liwayne's team was very instrumental in doing the audits for us to find out who is the most needy and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we can't feed 500 families. And it's also very critical that it's the Mambas that are distributing that food inside their own communities.
Yeah, very good points. Liwayne, I had a couple questions for you, and I think this will probably have to be our last ones before we go to our break. But Liwayne, we had questions about how many children participate in the Bush Babies program, and what is it like, or how do you feel, or how do you see children's perspective of wildlife change from fear to excitement about the animals?
So we have about 2,300 learners on the program that are registered, obviously in partnership with the Department of Education. And the change from the kids is very much awakening, hence the name, the Bush Baby, because you see the eyes of the Bush Baby is, like I've said, granny teaches kids at home, elephant is going to kill you. And then they come here and I teach them, oh, these are the functions of the ears on an elephant. And I take them to see the actual elephant. And wow, these kids are in the middle of, is Liwayne right? Is Granny right? Now they really can't weigh in where they fit in. But to just see the change. I remember in one of the cases when we went camping and they had a puppet show, they had puppets and they had to narrate a story. But to show the impact of the program on the kids, having this positive impact on them. The elephant, there was a snake that a rock fell onto the snake, but the snake couldn't move. So all the animals didn't want to help the snake because the snake is going to bite us. But then the rhino came and said, I will help you, but I'm just not strong enough. Let me get the elephant. And then elephant and rhino came together and they moved to this rock. It was so funny how the kids used actually the sounds, like the elephant was like, oh, I'm pushing this rock from the snake. So you could see that behavioral change, that the kids know elephant is going to kill you, but now they're depicting elephant as this animal that helps all animals within the landscape, showing again their very much important role of how other species are dependent on it. So for us, environmental education is a long-term investment, but we are really seeing the fruits of our labor.
That's amazing.
Liwayne, you've got 1,300 children under your care in the 11 primary schools. Am I right?
It's more than that, because we've got that is for bush babies only. But because we've got the mini bush babies, the mongoose pack, a lot. We're running 3 programs in one school, and we've got 11, so 3 times 11.
Right.
With 6 staff members. Thanks, James. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah, no worries. And Liwayne, I think something that's really fantastic about the educational program that you all are doing through the Bush Babies is that you're working not just with the kids, but you're working with the other people in the community who are educating the kids too, which is the Bush Grannies, as you call them.
Yes, that is true. Like Craig also mentioned that we have the 6 environmental monitors. They are community-based. So what their role is not just bush babies, but they also play a very critical role in identifying environmental problems, such as all the pollution, the sand mining activities, the water pollution, the nappies that are being thrown, alien plant species. And you should see how it's not just them recording this, but they have a learning process at the same time. The bush grannies, as I've stated, they play a very much important role. We're trying to keep that indigenous knowledge still in the local community. So granny would teach kids how to make jam using natural resources. What we know is Palabora is known for the marula plants and marula seeds, and they use that for alcohol. But through the partnership with the bush grannies, they can teach the kids of, oh no, we can actually make jam. And that's what one of the advantages of having the center is, that the kids can actually learn to make use of natural resources.
That's fantastic.
So it's an ongoing phases. You don't just start with the little ones and then bye, we'll see you when you're 80 years old. No. And the grannies get to go into the Kruger National Park. So that is also a cherry on top. It's the first time for all of them. Nobody has ever been there. And they come across an elephant and they go, oh, it's the size of an elephant? And you're like, yes, it is. And they've never seen one before.
What a great opportunity that must be to be able to see that light up in their eyes.
Yeah, and at their age, you know, the bush grannies are 70 years going upwards, and it's their very first time in the Kruger National Park, and they are just less than 10 kilometers from the Palabora gate, but they never have the opportunity to go.
Right. Wow, that's so inspirational. You know, I think one of the comments here, and this is, I guess, more for Craig. You know, we hear about the Mambas. This is from Cassandra, one of our volunteers here, and she says that we hear about the Mambas all the time because, you know, we talk about you all because, you know, we feel really passionate about you. Are there particularly any interesting stories about patrols? Any unique finds? Any exciting moments? Anything like that that maybe we could end on, Craig?
Yeah, thanks, James. You know, there's so many stories, but you know, I would say that if you had to ask the Mambas, they're on patrol now, which is why they're not sitting here with me now. But it would mostly be with wild animal interactions. Remember, these are unarmed women working day and night, and you know, on foot and in a vehicle, etc. So many times our aging, failing fleet of Land Rovers breaks down in, let's say, a breeding herd of elephants, and the ladies are left high and dry, or they get punctures and they can't get out of the vehicle because they're surrounded by lions, or they're walking down on a patrol beat and buffaloes or black rhinos or what have you storm out of the bush and chase them around like maniacs all over the show. But one story in particular that sticks out in my mind that made me super, super proud of the Mambas and actually demonstrated the kind of resolve and what these women stand for was whilst on patrol right up in the north, close to where Liwayne is now, which is about 70 kilometers from where I am sitting. They noticed a vehicle driving on the outside of the park, and there was a woman bound and gagged in the back of the vehicle, and they realized that this woman had been abducted. There's quite a lot of that kind of thing going on here as well. It's not just wildlife trade. And you would have thought that, well, their primary objective is illegal wildlife trade, so why should they care about somebody being abducted? But they did not. They chased that vehicle down. They broke through the fence with the Land Rover. They jumped over the fence, even though it's electrified to keep elephants inside and whatever. And they chased that vehicle down, and they managed to apprehend the drivers, and they freed the women from being abducted, called the cops in, and the works, you know.
Wow.
And before I could even put my shoes on, because as you know, I very rarely have them. I can't even figure out where they are half of the time. They had sorted the entire problem out. Everything was recorded in the ops room. They just followed protocol 100%, and they'd saved that woman from a terrible life of whatever sex trade or whatever she was destined for. So, you know, that's a great demonstration story. There's many other stories of them bumping into poachers, chasing them around in the bush and wada. You know, that's the cliche stories. It's when people go above and beyond the call of duty that it sticks in my mind. And that was one of those particular stories.
That's fantastic. What an inspiration. You know, you both are just so important to us here at the Living Desert, but of course, as inspiration for conservationists around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today and for all the extra work that you've had to do to be able to make it possible to join us today. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate working with you both.
Thank you very much, James. And James, I just want to say that the research that you and your team did, we hope to see you guys back again, because we are still riding on the back of that research from the Living Desert and your team. So thank you very much for that. We need you guys back here. We can't do this alone.
Well, I can't wait to rejoin you down there, sir.
Can I have a last word, James?
Sure, please. Yes.
The most significant outcome of the research that you guys did was to demonstrate to us how important the link is between the women, the mothers patrolling the wildlife landscape, and the work that Liwayne does in the schools. That was the most significant outcome of that research. If we want to reach all of those objectives that we pointed out there, and we want to create a resilient wildlife landscape to all socio-political issues and whatever you want to call it, COVID, etc., we need to have both running in parallel. We can't just have the wildlife security on the landscape. We have to have the school program running at the same time. Otherwise, you know, we are window dressing. So, yeah. And if you do come down again, I'll be very proud to show you how it is that we have implemented your suggestions. So thank you very much.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Thank you both again.
Thanks, James.
Take care of yourselves. We'll be in touch.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so thank you, Liwayne and Craig, for a really inspirational discussion as well as presentation.